Hi guys, I just wanted to do a video for the R8 traders talk that we're in. Really just wanted to give a little explanation of something that I've found myself over the past week or two. Specifically, this would be for people who are just starting out. I know some of you have maybe traded a few times before but have got burned accounts, etc. And some of you are obviously very experienced, so completely irrelevant to you guys. But what I've realised myself is, and I've been trading 6 weeks now, is that trading is very much built up on graphs and charts and trend lines, support lines, and other movements in graphs. And it's become really apparent to me when Simon put up that trade of sell in the week. One of his guys, signal that he got was a sell signal, and it literally fell off a cliff and recovered. That really opened my eyes up to how it trades, because it hit a certain peak 3 times and then fell and then etc. So I've sort of spent some time looking at Phil's pictures which he puts up, which I'm very thankful for. Thank you, Phil. And also I've been following that Goldman's YouTube for a few days or weeks even, and it's quite interesting. I know he talks twaddle, but it's actually interesting following somebody talking about graphs and charts and a currency trend that you, or a pair that you follow. It does open your eyes to how much it can be influenced by certain areas. So I just plotted my own graph. I spent an hour this morning on YouTube watching what you do, or how you do it, and I just sort of plotted my own. I just wanted to share it with you, and it's good because the weeks just passed us. You can kind of look back through, see what I maybe mean, and hopefully maybe pick out some information that will help you along the way. So the first thing I've done is I've picked a bottom trend line. So a bottom trend line was there once, there a few times here, and then I've got one which, okay, it does pass through it, but it's pretty close, 28th of February. So you can see that's my bottom trend line, and then I've got a top trend line there, and then that's it. We haven't hit it again since. So as you can see, I see gold as an upward trending thing, so I see it as an upward channel rather than a downward channel. Now, this channel might not be perfect. You could maybe argue it could be placed in other ways. You could maybe pick on this one here and this one here, but then the problem with that is the window is too, one, it's too upward. You know, you have to be realistic. It's not going to go vertically up. It's too upward. So you need to give it the sideways movements that it makes, slow sideways movements with upward movements. And whilst we're here, for anybody new into trading, specifically gold, this is what it was doing before the pandemic. So it was much smaller movements. So this window, this massive window I've got built here, would have been tiny. As you can see, pandemic hit. Just here, the Fed announced 0% interest rates, or they announced printing cash, or whatever the American Fed thing. So everyone bought gold, and then probably it peaked at 1785. One thing you'll see in my trading history, which I put up yesterday, is when I first started out, I was buying, selling. You know, it was ridiculous. I was buying, losing, close a trade, and then I click sell, and then I was losing again. It made no sense. I actually did a buy here at 1685, at the very peak. You know, I know we all make mistakes every now and then. I did a buy and I blew 2 grand watching it fall down. Typically, it retested it, but it was a full, 2 weeks later. So that's the window that I've picked out. Now let's have a look. So it's peaked there, fell, little test, went beyond it, but back up, fell, went well outside the window, but it's picked back into it, retested it there a few times, up to the tops, down to the bottoms, and then we are where we are. This is a 1 hour candle graph at the moment, so you can see this is what. So it's quite a wide view. When things fall out of graphs, what I've noticed is it can go a little bit erratic because people don't know what to do. Even though my graph will be different to everybody else's, they've still got to follow a very similar trend. Like I said, you're not going to have graphs going shooting off up here. You're going to be following a very similar trend. So when it comes out, you can see these big movements that they make, and that is people not really knowing how it's going, what's going on, etc., etc. And you can see at that time how volatile it was, where we peaked at 1700. Actually, it was the peak there. So it hit that big round number, and that was it. Boom. Everyone did sells probably, and it fell all the way down. So from the 6th of March to the 19th of March, it fell $140. Massive. Imagine you did a buy there and just sat and held it, and we're up here now. Yes, there's a few peaks and troughs, but you're up here now. How much money could you have gained by that? But anyway, you're not to know, and sometimes it's difficult. So that's my overall one, and then I've also done a smaller window, which is more based on the sort of week from the 20th, so the weeks that's just past us. So as you can see, it started off on the 20th at sort of 1674. I've got a new window. This is my smaller window that I've drawn, so you can see it. Test, test, test. Fell out the window. Test, fell out the window, but didn't really go too much further. Test, test, test. So I sort of see that as quite a fair window to be in. And of course, again, you can maybe change the angle and the way the graph is, and maybe even the lines, but looks fair to me. Yeah, so you can sort of see where it is, and you can see when something gets close or when it overexerts. So up here, it completely overexerted on this big candle here. So it went to 1736, went massively up, massively down, but actually in that 1 hour window, it did not set there. It was just a huge rise and a huge fall at that time. But we'll talk a little bit more about that now. So now we've established the windows, let's talk about support and resistance. So support is where if it falls down to a level, you've got support, people are going to buy, there's good levels there, people have already bought, and resistance is where it hits a top, like up here, and it can't go any further. So in the week, 1721 was a fair window, certainly from the 23rd, of support where it was over it. As you can see, it fell down, it tested it a little bit, it came down a little bit further on a wick, but look, it recovered, it tested it, it tested it, it tested it, it tested it. You can see it was a fair sort of window to look at. And actually, if you come back across into the week before, it did a similar thing in a different way. It was actually a resistance window at that time, if I have got this correct. So you can see it went up, hit resistance, fell down, up, down, etc., etc. But as it goes, that's been quite a significant number. It now seems to be a support window. But let's just quickly talk about it, because yesterday what we saw was it tested the upward trending line, 1735 at that time, and then fell. Or it fell, recovered, and then did it again and fell all the way down to 1712. Came straight through the window of 1721, which I wasn't expecting. I know a few people had buys on at that time, and it didn't even resist. It just fell straight down, no support, straight through. And somebody actually wrote a message saying, what's the next support line I've got to buy on? And a few people messaged. I mean, my view on it was 1708 would be my stop loss on the next fall, and that's because the support is 1711, and it kind of did that, dropped down, little bit of a wick, and rose back up. One thing that I realized this morning, and it's something that every day you're learning, is that was a perfect time to buy. And the reason being, we kind of knew it was going to be supported at that level, so that's a great re-entry point into the marketplace. Let's get a buy on and watch it rise back up. I know Phil did that with his skills and confidence that he's got. I waited for confirmation, so I bought a 1714, which was somewhere here, and I think a few people recovered into profit where they had buys higher up. So that could have been a good buy position, and potentially you could have gone in with quite good volume, so quite a lot of money, and you could have said, look, we'll set a stop loss at 1708, so you've given yourself a little bit of risk, given it a little bit of bouncing if it did bounce, but look, good chances are you're going to recover up and up and up. And if you did a buy there, you'd be laughing now. Especially if you had you're laughing no matter what money you've put on it, because you're going to be in good profits. The 1711 line, again, it does show, look, a test there, and then if it comes over, test, you know what I mean? So you can see it's quite a good reference point going back a couple of weeks. So that's how that line has been given, and the sentiment of other people, I believe, is that it's a good support line. There are other lines in there as well. There might have been a bit of support at 1718 and etc., but these are ones that I see as being important. Then you got a resistance line of 1737, 1738, which is this line here. This big red line here is the resistance point. And let's have a little look. Look at that. One bounce, a sort of bounce there, hit it there, hit it there. It went through it there, but like I said earlier, it completely fell back through. And all it did was get up to 1746 and bounce down. Now, why is that a resistance line? Well, as you can see, it's hit it and fell back down. Every time it hits it, it falls. But what happens is, from what I've learned, is that it runs out of momentum. So we're buying, we're buying, we're buying, we're buying. You know, you can see nice big green candles, couple of reds, but look, we're buying, we're buying. We went really strong on this candle, and then it ran out of puff. People were saying, right, take profit. So they're selling their trades, they're taking profit. So one, it loses its momentum. And then you've also got other people who have sat without trades on and saying, right, look, it's hit it 3 times. Do a sell there. Much like I said, do a buy here. They've gone, do a sell there, and look, it paid off. So that's the resistance. And it takes a big push to push past the resistance levels of that sort of side. That's a big resistance level. And it's at all times high, well, highs of like from 2012. This is a big all-time high, really. So you can see this is going to be a big hard push to come up past this level. And when it does, no doubt it will shoot up. But do bear in mind, if you're looking at buying at this time, you know, be careful to buy too close to these lines. You know, doing a buy at 1735, time you're giving yourself a dollar spread, you're at 1736, at 1738, 1739, it's going to hit a hard wall, and it's going to take a lot of push to come up through it. And it doesn't seem to be the confidence at this moment in time to do that. But just bear in mind as well is that if it does push past it, you're going to want to see a good bit of trading above that window before you really want to get on a buy. But if you do buy then, the next big area you're going to have is 1750. Psychologically, I think that's a big deal for a lot of people, but we've also seen the bounce earlier on here. And so really it doesn't give you much momentum to want to do this sort of push up. The resistance line is too high up to 1750 to give you that push. You know, you're going to clear it. You're going to want to see 1744 by the time you do a buy. And then 1750 is just up the road. You're like, do you know what? We'll let the other people fight that out rather than us. Yeah, so that's something to bear in mind when you're looking at that. And then I just want to show you it in 15-minute candles because I think it's still relevant. So the 15-minute candles, you can see in the graph I've drawn, bang, bang, bang. I think that's it. Oh, and there, roughly, bang. All the way back to 3rd of March. Bottom line, top line, once, twice, 3 times. So still quite a good window to look at. And then in the smaller window that I've drawn, you can sort of see test, test, test. You know, it's bouncing within that window. And 15-minute windows are good to look at. And you can see the support resistance is still very, very relevant. So yeah, I just wanted to do a little video about that. Hopefully it helps anybody trying to learn support resistance, you know, moving forwards. Just quickly into next week, what are the views? You know, I'm not experienced enough really to know what's going to happen, but looking at the graphs, you would sort of say we might sit in this channel, which is generally upward, and we're probably likely to test this number again. We're probably likely to test 1721 again. And just quickly on 1721, that's not a guaranteed success anymore. I think because it's past it, we need to retest that number to see if it's still support. If it isn't, we need to look for the next support level that becomes apparent. You know, it could be a bit higher, it could be a bit lower. You need to see the bounces basically. And it's the same with 11, but 11 hasn't really been passed. So this is still, in my eyes, a good support level. So bear that in mind in your trades. You know, if it comes down to 1721 and bounces and does it again, then you could look at that as being a support line again. If it does pass this, 1721 and 1711, the chances are we're in for fair size downward movement, and you would look that this would be the very end. So it shouldn't come past this number here, which is 1670, let's say. So obviously there's going to be further support lines in that number. Might be I think 1690 is one, might be somewhere here, 1681. But you know, that is the sort of uncharted territory. Like, hold on tight. Maybe don't do too many trades if you're not. If you maybe a downward trade is a good one to do, a sell trade, but just be careful. You then need to start plotting new graphs and working out new support and resistance levels. Yeah. So no guarantees that upward is happening. You know, I think the general feeling is it is, but you know, watch the news. That's interesting. You know, news does affect the markets and the graphs. You know, people sell. They see bad news and sell. They see good news and buy. See if that announcement on Wednesday, the Fed is having a talk, or you know, doing an announcement maybe, or something like that. If that 3 year thing is apparent, I think gold will absolutely rocket. That will be it then. That's the chain that, you know, get on board the train and do a buy. Um, but I'm sure we'll all be talking in between them times. So yeah, support, resistance, and anything in between. Good luck.